What could be worse than death itself? In Athens 399 BC, the same year Socrates drank his hemlock, the answer emerged in the form of atomia, the obliteration of honor and identity. Death was swift, but this punishment unraveled a soul thread by thread until nothing remained. Women, already trapped in a patriarchal order that denied them rights, became the most vulnerable victims. They were property, never citizens, reflecting only the honor of fathers, husbands, or sons. To fail in that role was to invite shame or aros, a pollution so dangerous it required purification rituals and often exile. Public humiliation became the chosen weapon, for shame was more destructive than the sword. Spectacle amplified its force. Punishments unfolded in the agora or busy crossroads, staged as lessons to reinforce male power and female subjugation. Male nudity symbolized beauty and triumph, but female nudity symbolized crime and disgrace. The Greeks twisted this paradox into their most degrading sentence. Known as Impanismos, it began when the condemned was stripped bare before the crowd. Bound to wooden planks or wheels, she was denied food, water, and shelter, exposed under the burning sun and chilling night. The public, urged to join, hurled stones, insults, and refuse. Children watched so the message carried into the future. Religion sanctified the cruelty, framing it as purification, even as it reduced the victim into a living emblem of disgrace, a fate far worse than death itself. Those condemned to Apotympanismos were denied burial, their souls doomed to wander eternally. For women, the punishment was amplified by a society that silenced and erased them. Men faced it for treason, but women could suffer for adultery, poisoning, or challenging male authority. Records reveal countless nameless victims erased from history. One Theban case describes a woman accused of poisoning her husband's rival. With no right to defend herself, she was condemned at dawn by male relatives and magistrates. Her sentence, death by Apotympanismos. The march to execution was itself humiliation. Stripped of dignity as she traversed crowded streets, the crowd spat, jeered, and threw objects. Children laughed while vendors sold food, turning cruelty into spectacle. Her body was bound and displayed, every moment designed to erase identity and spread shame beyond death. The religious miasma of her crime tainted her family, marking children with dishonor that barred them from rights and professions. Participation was enforced, with citizens expected to hurl stones and insults, while those who showed mercy risked suspicion. The punishment became not only a ritual of destruction but a civic performance, monetized by vendors and sanctioned by magistrates. Archaeological evidence suggests execution sites were chosen for maximum visibility, with raised platforms ensuring no one missed the show. Even children were indoctrinated, taught that extreme violence was necessary for order. This system turned execution into entertainment, revealing how efficiently a society could weaponize shame, erase women, and profit from human suffering. The children often received small treats or rewards for attending, creating positive associations with witnessing human suffering. The comparison with other Greek punishments reveals the unique cruelty of Apotympanismos. Catapontismos or ritual drowning was swift and private, denying the victim the prolonged agony of public humiliation. The pharmakos or scapegoat ritual, while involving public participation, typically ended quickly with the victim's exile or death. Only Apotympanismos combined maximum physical suffering with maximum social degradation, creating a punishment specifically designed to destroy both body and soul. Literary references in the works of Sophocles and Euripides suggest that even ancient audiences found these punishments disturbing. Yet, they continued to attend and participate. The tragic playwrights used the horror of public execution as a dramatic device, knowing that their audiences would recognize and respond to the terror it represented. This cultural acknowledgement of the punishment's brutality makes its continued practice even more chilling. The psychological impact on society was profound and lasting. Communities that regularly practiced Apotympanismos developed a collective callousness toward human suffering that extended into other areas of life. The normalization of extreme violence against women reinforced gender hierarchies and legitimized domestic abuse, creating cycles of cruelty that persisted for generations. Yet perhaps most disturbing was what happened after death, when the machinery of obliteration truly revealed its full power. Death, for most humans throughout history, has marked the end of earthly suffering and the beginning of whatever lies beyond. But for victims of Apotympanismos, death was merely the transition from one form of torture to another. The ancient Greeks had perfected a system of post-mortem punishment so thorough that it sought to erase not just the person but the very memory of their existence from the fabric of reality itself. Damnatio memoriae, the systematic erasure from all records, began even before the victim had drawn their final breath. Scribes would work methodically through official documents, scratching out names with such thoroughness that modern archaeologists struggled to decipher them. The victim's name was chiseled from public monuments, removed from family genealogies, and eliminated from religious records. It was as if they had never existed at all. The consequences for surviving family members were devastating and deliberate. Children found their inheritance rights stripped away, their citizenship questioned, their very legitimacy as members of society called into doubt. The miasma of their mother's crime and punishment clung to them like a spiritual plague, following them through every aspect of their lives. Marriage prospects evaporated. Professional opportunities vanished, and social circles closed their doors permanently. Burial prohibitions added another layer of cruelty to this systematic destruction. The victim's body was left exposed to scavengers, denied the basic human dignity of proper interment. In Greek religious belief, this condemned the soul to wander restlessly for eternity, unable to find peace in the afterlife. The horror of this spiritual punishment extended the torture infinitely beyond the boundaries of mortal existence. Property confiscation served both practical and symbolic purposes. The victim's possessions were seized and redistributed among male relatives or sold to benefit the community treasury. This economic aspect of the punishment ensured that the material traces of the person's existence were scattered to the winds, making reconstruction of their life nearly impossible for future generations. Religious purification rituals followed the death as priests performed elaborate ceremonies to cleanse the contamination left by the victim's presence. Sacred spaces where the condemned had worshipped were ritually purified, their names removed from religious rosters, their offerings destroyed or redistributed. Even the gods, it seemed, were encouraged to forget that such a person had ever lived. The process of collective amnesia was perhaps the most chilling aspect of this post-mortem torture. Communities actively worked to forget the victim, training themselves to avoid mention of the person's name or deeds. This social amnesia was enforced through informal sanctions. Those who spoke of the condemned risked being associated with their pollution and facing social consequences themselves. Archaeological evidence continues to reveal the thoroughness of these erasure practices. Inscriptions discovered in recent decades show names that have been carefully chiseled out, replaced with curse formulas, or left as intentional blanks. The physical evidence of this systematic destruction provides haunting testimony to the lengths ancient Greeks would go to unmake a human being. The comparison with Roman practices reveals the unique Greek contribution to the art of human destruction. While Romans also practiced damnatio memoriae, they typically reserved it for political enemies and applied it after death. The Greeks integrated erasure into the punishment itself, making the victim witness their own obliteration from history. The long-term psychological impact on surviving family members created ripple effects that could last for generations. Children who witnessed their mother's erasure from existence developed complex trauma responses, often becoming either extremely compliant citizens or conversely harboring deep resentments that could explode into violence years or decades later. The economic implications for the polis was significant, but rarely discussed in ancient sources. The labor lost through these executions, the families destroyed, the social disruption caused by public spectacles, all of these factors contributed to hidden costs that weaken communities even as they claimed to strengthen social order. The echoes of these practices would haunt Greek society for generations, creating patterns of violence and oppression that would influence Western civilization for millennia to come. As we stand in the ruins of ancient Athens today, surrounded by the broken marble of a civilization that gave the world democracy and philosophy, we are confronted with an uncomfortable truth about human nature. The same culture that produced Socrates and Plato, that celebrated reason and justice, also perfected techniques of cruelty that would make modern torturers pause in admiration. The influence of these practices extended far beyond the borders of ancient Greece. Roman legal traditions absorbed and adapted Greek concepts of public shaming and post-mortem punishment. Medieval European legal systems incorporated elements of ritual humiliation that can be traced directly back to Greek precedents. Even today, in our age of social media and instant global communication, we see echoes of ancient Apotympanismos in the phenomenon of online public shaming, where individuals can be systematically destroyed and erased from digital existence with frightening efficiency. Archaeological discoveries continue to reveal new evidence of these practices, forcing us to confront the reality that human cruelty has remained remarkably consistent across cultures and millennia. Recent excavations in Athens have uncovered what appear to be specialized execution sites, complete with drainage systems designed to handle the bodily fluids of the condemned, and viewing areas arranged for maximum spectator comfort. What these ancient practices reveal about human nature is perhaps more disturbing than the practices themselves. They demonstrate our capacity for collective self-deception, our ability to rationalize extreme cruelty as moral necessity, and our willingness to participate in the destruction of fellow human beings when given social permission to do so. The Greek concept of miasma, spiritual pollution, provided the perfect justification for treating certain individuals as less than human, contaminated beings whose destruction was not only acceptable but necessary for community health. The importance of remembering these dark chapters of human history cannot be overstated. They serve as warnings about what we are capable of when fear, prejudice, and social pressure combine to override our basic humanity. They remind us that civilization is a thin veneer that can be stripped away with terrifying ease, revealing the savage impulses that lurk beneath our rational, ordered societies. The systematic oppression of women revealed in these ancient practices continues to resonate in modern discussions of gender equality and justice. The Greek concept of women as property rather than people, the legal framework that denied them voice or agency, the religious beliefs that made them scapegoats for societal problems, all of these elements persist in various forms in societies around the world today. Perhaps most chilling is the realization that the technology of human destruction has evolved while the fundamental impulses remain unchanged. We have become more efficient at erasing people from existence, more sophisticated in our methods of public shaming, more subtle in our techniques of social control. The Greeks used wooden planks and public squares. We use algorithms and digital platforms. The methods have changed, but the underlying cruelty remains depressingly constant. In our age of social media and public judgment, where careers can be destroyed with a single tweet and lives can be ruined by viral videos, we must ask ourselves a difficult question. Have we truly evolved beyond these ancient impulses to destroy those who transgress our moral boundaries? Or have we simply found new ways to practice the same fundamental cruelties that turned the streets of Athens into theaters of human degradation over 2,000 years ago?